So I've always had a soft spot for the Resident Evil series, and with the latest installment in Capcom's horror franchise releasing last week, I thought I would take a look at 15 Easter eggs, secrets, and hidden details found in Resident Evil Village. Now, I was lucky enough to get my hands on a copy of Village before launch, meaning I've spent a serious amount of time with it, but that doesn't mean I've found everything there is to find. So, if you know of an Easter egg, secret, or detail in Village that wasn't featured in this video, then let me know in the comments section or on my social media accounts, the links to which are in the description. Oh, and it really should go without saying, but this video will contain major spoilers for Resident Evil Village, so if you haven't made it to the end yet, stop watching now and come back when you're done. Finally, even though I'm not quite sure what purpose they serve, leaving a like on the video always makes me happy. Anyway, without further delay, let's get started. So let's begin in Ethan and Mia's home. In an attempt to leave the horrors of Resident Evil 7 behind them, Ethan and Mia move to Europe to raise their daughter Rose. But this is a Resident Evil game, so it doesn't take long for the mould to hit the fan. Before that though, we do get a brief chance to explore the couple's home, where we can make some interesting discoveries. First up, at the top of the stairs, you can find this.
Why do I even keep this around? I should get rid of it someday.
So this is a Mr. Everywhere, a collectible that featured in Resident Evil 7. Now after all that happened in Louisiana, why Ethan decided to hold on to this is anyone's guess. Moving into the study, where you can find a book called Gun Survivalist, a heavy firearms field manual for field combat situations by Joseph Kendo. Catchy title. Now I've seen a lot of people believing that this is the same Kendo found in Resident Evil 2, but it's not. That Kendo is Robert Kendo, with Joseph Kendo being his brother. Joe Kendo is probably best known for designing the Samurai Edge pistol used by STARS members, which was also available as a pre-order bonus in Resident Evil Village. Up next, if you go to your study while still carrying Rose, you can do this.
Well, hi there, little Rose.
So it's nothing mind-blowing, but it is something that some of you may have missed. Heading back downstairs now, and it's time for dinner. Let's see what Mia is cooking.
Is she okay?
Sleeping like a baby. That smells good. What's that?
Oh, hands off, mister. It's chorba de legume. It's a local recipe.
Wow, you've gone full native, haven't you?
Local wine, too.
So Mia is cooking chorba de lagoon, a local recipe. This causes Ethan to claim that Mia has gone full native. Now, for those who have completed the game, you'll know that this isn't Mia. It's in fact Miranda, the main antagonist of Resident Evil Village. The fact that she's cooking a local delicacy may be because that's all she knows how to cook. Another subtle hint about Mia's true identity can be seen before taking Rose to bed.
We moved here so that she wouldn't have to deal with any of that, remember?
There's nothing wrong with my memory.
So Mia, rather abruptly, insists that her memory is fine. At first, I thought that Mia reacted this way because she wanted to forget the events of RE7. And I mean, who could blame her? But knowing that this is Miranda and not Mia, it makes me think that she wanted to cut the conversation short so that her deception wasn't found out. I could be reading too much into this one, so let me know what you think. Also, when sitting at the table, Ethan says this.
It's just finding you in Louisiana, the pregnancy, Chris moving us here, military training, it all happened so fast, you know?
So this throwaway line about military training is actually factored into Resident Evil Village's gameplay. So here is how Ethan reloads the pistol in Resident Evil 7. So he ejects the magazine and tosses it away. However, after his military training, here is how Ethan reloads the pistol in Resident Evil Village. So he will eject the magazine, but knowing it still has bullets left, he won't toss it away, instead he saves it for later. It's a pretty subtle change that can go some way to explaining why Ethan feels so much more competent in combat this time around. The final find of interest at the house can be seen in the kitchen. The bottles of wine are labelled as Regina Rossi. Strangely, these are the same bottles of wine found at Castle Dimitresk. Of course, this could just be a case of reused assets. but given the castle's reputation for winemaking, it really wouldn't surprise me if Miranda asked Lady Dimitrescu to borrow a couple of bottles for her secret undercover mission. Right, moving on from the house now, it's time to meet my favourite character in the game. The Duke acts as Resident Evil Village's merchant, supplying you with guns, ammo, and just about anything else you need. I mean, he'll even whip you up a tasty meal if you bring him the right ingredients. Now, much like the merchant in the brilliant Resident Evil 4, the Duke's motives and backstory are unknown. But he does say something that may ring a bell. When browsing the Duke's wares, he may say this.
Bits and bobs? I see. What are you buying? Just something an old friend of mine used to say.
So that was of course a reference to a line said by the merchant in Resident Evil 4.
A selection of good things on sale, stranger. What are you buying?
Here's hoping that the Duke isn't just a one-off character, because I love the guy. So this next quote-unquote Easter egg is pretty debatable, but I know what I heard. When first entering Castle Dimitresk, you can hear this. Now, I don't know about you, but that scream sounds an awful lot like Meg's scream from the Dead by Daylight intro cutscene. Here, take a listen. Of course, it's worth remembering that Dead by Daylight and Resident Evil have teamed up with a crossover chapter due to be released in June, so it may not be as far-fetched as First 4. So what do you think, Easter egg or not? Let me know. Up next are some really cool hidden interactions between Lady Dimitrescu and her daughters. But before that, I just wanted to highlight some foreshadowing. When you're captured and taken to Lady Dimitrescu, she wants to taste Ethan's blood.
Starting to go a little stale.
Then let's devour his...
So she says that Ethan's blood is starting to go stale. Now of course we know that Ethan has actually been dead since the beginning of Resident Evil 7, and it was in fact the mold that gave Ethan regenerative abilities which allowed him to stay alive. I love moments like this because it makes a second playthrough even more fun. Anyway, back on topic. Whilst at Castle Dimitrescu, the chances are you didn't want to stay longer than you had to. Unless you had a thing for Lady Dimitrescu, in which case I won't judge. Well, for those of you who took the time to explore without being seen, there are several lines of dialogue that can be heard which give you an insight into the relationship that Lady Dimitrescu had with her adopted daughters. First up, after disposing of Bella, you can hear this.
What have you done to my daughter?
So Lady Dimitrescu is understandably upset after losing a daughter. The next line of hidden dialogue can be found after killing Daniela and heading back to the lobby whilst remaining unseen.
Cassandra! Come here now! Enough games! I want that man's head! Now go!
Of course, Mother.
Now this one's really cool, as it can be quite easy to miss. And finally, after killing all three sisters, you can hear Lady Dimitrescu say this.
Oh? The entire bloodline of House Dimitresk is done in by the likes of you?
So despite being the results of an experiment, it does seem that Lady Dimitrescu really did love her three daughters. Okay, moving on to something a little less sad now. At several locations in the game, you can find this. So this bucket of who knows what is helpfully labelled ABCD EFG, with all other writing on the bucket following the same pattern. I'm guessing the environmental designer had enough of the day and really wanted to go home. Oh, and something else that you may not have noticed is the game's title screen, which will reflect what the in-game time of day was when you last played. So the penultimate Easter egg for today's video has been causing a little bit of controversy over the last couple of days. Strum is an enemy in RE8 with a propeller attached to his body. This has earned him the really clever nickname of Propellerhead. Well, in the 2013 indie horror movie Frankenstein's Army, a very similar looking enemy can be seen. The similarities don't end there. When you start to deal damage to Strum, he bursts into flames, just like the character from the movie. Now, whether this was intentional or not, I don't know. But several websites, including IGN, are reporting that this may be plagiarism, and not a simple reference. But you know what they say, you can't spell ignorant without IGN. Anyway, who knows, but it's definitely a situation worth keeping an eye on. So the final and no doubt best Easter egg in Resident Evil Village can be heard during the boss battle with Heisenberg. After almost losing your junk to Heisenberg's blades, he will say this. So the boulder punching arsehole that Heisenberg is referring to is none other than Chris Redfield, a man so tough that he was able to punch a boulder into submission in Resident Evil 5. So that's it. If you know of any other Easter eggs, secrets or details in Resident Evil Village that I may have missed, then the best places to let me know are in the comments section or on my social media accounts. The links, as always, are in the description. If you enjoyed this video, then a like is really appreciated. If you are a fan of Easter eggs, secrets and tiny details in games, then perhaps consider subscribing, as that's what this channel is all about. Thank you all very much for watching, and I'll speak to you all soon.